Noel Manning of the second here, and welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. So glad that you could join us. And we always say to those who take the time, we appreciate you, no matter how you do it, because we know you have quite a few things you can do with your time. And so if you take the time to spend with us, we appreciate it very much. Very happy to have on the show today a couple of filmmakers who are connected to the same film. The film is called All Joking Aside. Shannon Kohli is the director, and Raylene Harewood in this. And I'm just thankful for both of you guys joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So Shannon, I'm going to start with you, and I want to get a little background, let our listeners know a little bit about how you got involved in the entertainment and arts industry, and then we'll dive into Raylene as well. So Shannon, dive in.
So I grew up in Geneva, Switzerland, and there wasn't very much film there. And then I decided to go to college in Canada, in Vancouver. And as soon as I got to Vancouver, I saw how many films were being made, and I switched from economics to the film program. And while I was in school, I was volunteering on a whole bunch of different TV sets, film sets, short films, and discovered I absolutely loved it. I had such a passion for it, so I pursued it. I switched to the film school, and yeah, continued after that. So it's been a long time now.
Was there something about it that clicked and connected with you?
I mean, it was so many different things. I had a photography background. I got my first camera when I was 6. So, telling stories with visuals always appealed to me, and then telling stories in general. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Was there a certain type of role that you had on the crew that you really loved? You mentioned photography aspect of it, but were there other aspects of it too that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I very quickly gravitated to cinematography. So when I was in film school, I was volunteering in lighting and gripping and getting an idea of, how all of that worked on a film set. And then I started working as a director of photography and camera operator. And I was really fortunate. As soon as I graduated, I got hired as such. And it was a busy 15 years as a camera operator and DP, director of photography, before directing full time.
Awesome. Raylene, what about you? What about your journey into acting?
Yeah, I guess growing up as a kid, I had a lot of different hobbies, like all over the place. Like I did dance, I did taekwondo, I did magic, like all kinds of random stuff. And then this hobby of acting just became the one thing that really stuck. And then I got my first professional stage show when I was 16. And I remember having this moment sitting backstage, just thinking, wow, if I don't do this for the rest of my life, I am going to feel so unfulfilled. And I just went from there.
And the whole magic thing has kind of stayed with you through some of the roles that you've had a chance to be involved in, right?
I guess a little bit. Yeah. I've been on some shows that have magical elements. Yeah.
And how did the two of you meet?
So I was directing an episode of The Magicians, and I first saw Raylene in a casting session, and I thought she was fantastic, and cast her as the character in The Magicians for that episode. And then afterwards, when we were talking about casting for All Joking Aside, I asked our casting director to bring her in, and she was so good. And then we did a chemistry read with Brian Markinson, and they clicked, and they were fantastic together. So we gave her the part.
Awesome. And you both have worked in film and television as well. Talk about some of the differences from a filmmaking standpoint, from a director or director of photography standpoint, and then also talk about the acting differences, Raylene, that you discovered. Raylene, we'll start with you on this.
Sure. To be honest, for me, there aren't that many differences. One of the best things you can do to prepare for a TV show that's already aired is to watch that show and get a sense of the tone and the style of acting, because different TV shows have different styles. Whereas for a movie, it hasn't been made yet. So you don't really have that gift in advance. But really, for acting, it's all the same. You know, you do your scene work and you deliver your lines and act as honestly as possible, and that's it.
Now, Raylene, have you done any stage work as well? Have you done theater, live theater?
Yes. So I actually come from a theater background. I did a 3-year conservatory program in acting for theater. And I've done big stage theater in Vancouver and also in Winnipeg. And I was meant to be doing a big stage show in Toronto, but unfortunately COVID happened. But yeah, I'm quite involved in theater.
So the acting in theater definitely has its differences because of that immediate interaction and engagement.
Absolutely. Yes. And also because, you know, in theater, you're not just seeing the actor from like the waist up or just their face, you know, you're seeing their whole body. So you've got to express whatever's going on with your whole body. So that is quite different from screen acting. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're seeing each scene as it unfolds in real time, unlike theater. I mean, I'm sorry, unlike film and television as well.
Yes. And so thank goodness we have so much time to rehearse. You know, you get like minimum 2 or 3 weeks, if not a few months to rehearse a theater piece because yeah, it's happening live.
So Shannon, what about you? What are some of the differences that you have found in doing film and then television?
The big difference for me is the budget, because when I go on to a TV series, it's a well-oiled machine and there's usually a studio and a network behind it. And so the budget is considerably bigger than an indie feature.
Right.
And so an indie feature, you are doing everything from the ground up. And our producer, John Ornoy, he optioned the script from Inktip, and our writer was in the UK. And so it was like working on it from the ground up and putting the whole crew together. And if we didn't have someone to do a certain job, it fell onto us to do it. And so on set, you know, it was always very busy, and you can't just say, oh, I'd like another day to film because you don't have that budget, or, you know, let's get some more crew in because you can't actually afford to feed them. So you have to be really inventive and creative, and just use your budget very wisely. So it's a different, you know, the indie feature is the passion project. TV is fantastic, and I find it's very creative as well, but you just don't have that support behind you when you're
Right.
when you're directing an indie feature.
Yeah, and you came from some of the projects you've worked with on television. You've part of the Arrowverse, Supergirl. You've done The Magicians as well. So you've been a part of these, as you said, where there's some budget and there's a little bit of room to do some things.
Mhm.
Let's transition and talk about, all joking aside, it was something that was, Shannon, something you've been wanting to do for a little while, and you put together a campaign, a crowdfunding campaign to make this happen. And it's sounded like, from what I've looked at, you've had Raylene picked out from the beginning on this.
Yeah, Raylene came to mind right away as soon as I started talking about the film with our producer, John Ornoy. And so we were so lucky to get her. It was a really busy time in Vancouver, so we were really lucky that she was able to fit in, all joking aside, because she's so amazingly talented, and I feel like she made that film, and with Brian Markinson. So yeah, really fortunate there. And then the crowdfunding, you know, we took it to a number of studios, and no one was biting. And rather than give up, we thought, we want to make this film, and if it's not going to be a big budget, we think we can make it with a smaller budget. And it means enlisting help from our family and friends, and everyone came through.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, you know, the big budget feature we were hoping for, but we're just really happy with what we were able to do.
Yeah, I really loved how this film, it really was a drama about life, about discovering a path, and I think also about rediscovering a path as well. When you look at the mentor who is a reluctant mentor, but they have to find their way yet again. And I loved that relationship, Raylene, between the two of you. And sure, the backdrop is stand-up comedy, but it really is a drama about life at the heart of it. And I love so many aspects of this film, and questioning thoughts about facing mortality, and embracing the good and the bad that comes along with life, and realizing that this life isn't easy, just like stand-up comedy isn't easy. So the parallels there were wonderful. So Raylene, talk a little bit about your research into this role, and from a comedy standpoint, and some of the inspirations maybe you found.
Research from a comedy standpoint. Well, I've always been a really big fan of stand-up comedy. I love comedians like John Mulaney. He's a classic favorite comedian these days, and Gary Goldman's really good as well. But I had never done stand-up before, so that was the part that was pretty freaky to me. And so our producer, John Ornoy, suggested that I just do an open mic night just to see what it feels like. And so I did that, and I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to come. Yeah, that was one of the scariest experiences of my life, and it just gave me so much respect for stand-up comedians. Like you see them up there looking so confident, making all these jokes, but you don't realize that they're really putting themselves out there. Like, not only are they there on a stage in front of you, but they're telling stories that come from them, which is so different from my experience of being on stage, where I'm telling a story that was written down in a script that doesn't really have much to do with me, so it really is quite vulnerable. And yeah, that was my biggest eye opener in my preparation process.
So you really immersed yourself into the art with that experience.
Yes, I really did.
Shannon, tell me about the idea and the thought behind the story, and why you wanted to bring this to audiences.
For me, as soon as I read the script, I really identified with Charlene, the lead character. Felt like she was a young woman who was trying to make it in this world that, is very male dominated. And so as a young cinematographer, camera operator, I found that a lot. And, I was told often that, oh, women can't be camera operators because the camera's too heavy, or they don't see color as well as men, things like that. And I felt like there was a lot of barriers to fight through. And for Charlie as well, there were a lot of barriers to fight through. And she falls really hard the first time she's on stage and runs off, but then she gets back up again and she brushes herself off and she tries again. And I really identified with that passion and that determination, and to just never give up on your dreams. And as hard as it is, just keep trying.
And Raylene, I loved that about your character, was the perseverance, and even being diagnosed, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you were diagnosed with something that typically is kind of unusual for a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. And
Mm-hmm.
perseverance that your character had to go through with some life challenges, as well as those challenges on stage. And there were quite a few life challenges that your character had to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, that fed into her comedy, and I love that part of the movie when we learned that some of the most interesting comedy is the stuff that really is quite real and is quite deep, and it's a lot more universal than we think it is.
And I think so much of that is about writing as well, when you can write things that you know, that you feel, that you breathe and live. And one of the quotes that came out of this is a quote you've heard writers talk about all the time, is, writing is rewriting. And that, I remember that about this. And I think sometimes our lives reflect that. We are constantly rewriting our lives because we do change daily. There are things that come to us that we have choices to make. And so we may be on this path, but then coronavirus happens and we have to go this way. And so I loved that. And I thought the script was marvelous as well. Talk about where this script came from, and how many changes do we see from what that initial idea was to what we see on screen now? And Shannon, I guess you can address this.
Yeah, I mean, I can address it somewhat because so John Ornoy optioned it from Ink Tip, and our writer James Pickering is from the UK. So it was written with a British man as a center character. And so when John optioned it, he said, first of all, I want to make the main character woman, and then it needs to be adapted to a North American setting.
Right.
And so we worked really hard to do that. But ultimately we decided that we really needed the cast to make it their own. So in this case, Raylene and Brian Markinson to bring what they have to it, because just like comedy where you have to dig deep into and reveal that vulnerability and parts of yourself, it really felt that no one could write Charlene as well as Raylene could.
Wow.
So we had her help us so much on the script, and I really love that she was able to make it her own.
Raylene, talk about some of those things where you did make this character and this film your own.
Oh, wow. It's hard to talk about because I feel like it was such a busy 3 weeks and it was such a whirlwind, and we were really just going day by day, and there were a lot of changes happening in real time. But I feel like I have the most memories of changing the stand-up part of it, because I feel like it's actually really hard to write jokes for somebody else to tell, because everyone has their own, delivery pattern and whatever. So yeah, there was a lot of like looking at the lines in between scenes and switching it up. And thank goodness we had Richard Lett on set, who played Dennis in the movie, and he is a real life comedian who has been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So he was such a tremendous help to me in that.
Yeah, having that kind of resource gives so much to a project like this. And you talk about 3 weeks of this shoot. Talk about the production and where you shot and maybe the limitations that you had within that small budget.
So there were definitely a lot of limitations due to the budget, but I'm still amazed that we pulled it off, and I'm really humbled that so many people came out to help us. It was a very, very busy time in Vancouver, and everyone could have got paid work, but they chose to come and volunteer their time on our set. And then, yeah, the limitations, some of the comedy clubs, we had to be out by 5 p.m. because they were opening that night. And so it was always a struggle to get all of the work within that time. And then like silly things would go wrong, like someone would sleep in and not arrive with the truck, and so it was producer John who was like having to go drive the truck to set, and everyone's waiting for the camera, and things like that. So but I'm actually amazed that we pulled it off, and yeah, so honored to have worked with such great people.
And it really did work well. And you talked earlier about that struggle of breaking through those barriers and the stereotypes that were placed on you. And you see that within Raylene, within your character. But I think you also were able to really look at the power of gender equality within some of the crew that you were able to pull together in this film as well. Talk about that if you'd like.
Yeah, right away, John was adamant that he wanted gender parity in the crew as well. And I really, admired him for that. The first time a producer had ever said that to me.
Wow.
And so we picked the best people, and it just happened that the best people, was 50% men, 50% women. And, in the case of our B camera operator, Tracy Cragen, I had worked with her before, and she had operated camera on a couple of short films I'd done, and I really wanted her. And she may have not been as experienced as some other camera operators who were willing to come out, offering to come out. I'm sorry, she was our A camera operator. But the thing is, I knew that she could do it, and she hadn't had the opportunities yet to showcase what she could do. And I think it really is about making those opportunities, because unless people get those chances, they can't actually show you. They can't shine. So we made those opportunities, and everyone was amazing.
That's great. That's great. Raylene, if there's one theme, one message that you feel resonates with this film from you, what would that be? Because I know everyone interprets things differently, even audiences, but for you, what is that one thing that sticks with you that when you walk away, you're like, yes, this is it for me?
There's a few from this film. I touched on one of them earlier, which is that, you know, the more you can show up, the more authentic you can be and bring your full self to whatever you're doing, the more successful you're going to be. You know, that's true for anyone in stand-up. That's true for me in my acting. I think that's true for anyone who walks any road in this world.
Yeah.
And the other message, you know, I haven't quite got it in words yet, but something about growth in relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's a really key theme in this movie. And, you know, both Brian, or not Brian, oh, help me out, Shannon. Brian's character, Bob. Yes, both, it's okay. Both Bob and Charlene, you know, have this amazing opportunity to grow in this beautiful relationship that they've formed. And that was one of the really special parts of working on this film, is being a part of that relationship.
What I loved about that aspect is they grew in a relationship with each other, but also with those around them.
Yes, it really made them better in a you know, full sense of the way that they're in the world. So yeah, beautiful.
Shannon, what about you? The themes or thoughts that really come to mind for you personally?
Well, one I've mentioned is that, you know, never giving up on your dreams. And when you fall, like, get back up, brush yourself off, take the time you need, but try again. But for me, it was also the story of redemption for Bob.
Yeah.
And that it's never too late to be the person you want to be.
Right.
Charlie was able to open up that world for him, that he could redeem himself and become the person he wanted to be. So I really like that. And then the father-daughter relationship I loved. It wasn't a sort of a typical Hollywood film where, oh, the two characters fall in love. It was like, no, this is a father-daughter relationship that, you know, they have that friendship, but there's more to it as well.
Yeah, you definitely saw that protective aspect of it as well in one scene in particular, and I really loved that. The film is all joking aside. We are with Shannon Kohli and Raylene Harewood for this film. I know we're getting to wrap up, but I do want to give you both a chance to share any final thoughts or final comments about All Joking Aside. And Raylene, any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I suppose just reiterating, you know, what Shannon just said about what a breath of fresh air it is that this movie doesn't end up with two people falling in love. It's a really deep love, but it's a different kind of love, and one that we don't get to see on screen as often. And I think that's really what makes this movie special.
Absolutely. Shannon?
For me, it's, you know, as a filmmaker, it was so rewarding to make this, you know, little indie feature. And I've got to say to all the filmmakers out there, get out and make your films, whether it's on a phone or a camera you've borrowed. You know, so many stories still need to be told. And so getting out there and telling them is really necessary.
The film is All Joking Aside. Check it out. I'm Noel Manning II. Thank you so much, Shannon and Raylene, for spending time with us right here on Meet Me at the Movies. Until next time, that is a wrap.
These days, having a secure job really matters. Take plumbing, for instance. No matter what's going on with the economy, there will always be a need for professional plumbers to fix problems, help finish a new home or renovation, and make sure the plumbing works just right. Plus, professional plumbers can make a very good living. CCC offers what you need to get going with your career as a plumber. We have a fast-track certificate program to give you top-notch residential plumbing skills and knowledge of code requirements. Our more in-depth diploma program can give you the technical know-how and skills to handle residential and some big commercial projects. You learn how to lay, install, and maintain piping fixtures and systems for gas, hot water, drainage, sprinkling, and plumbing processing systems in any environment. Job security, good pay, professional status. Now the question is, are you ready to start your journey today?
I would tell anybody that's interested in getting broadcasting that this is a really exciting field to be in. The possibilities are endless. And every day is different. There's always something new. You're always on your toes. I think the good thing about, a school like Cleveland Community College is they're really good at keeping up with the latest technologies. My experience with the broadcasting program has been everything and more. I've hosted a television show here. I've done radio shows. I've made my own commercials, all kinds of exciting things, digital animation. And I've never thought I'd have a career in news that I enjoy. It's just really exciting to, have a career where you're in control of what 2 million people in the area are watching every night. It's really exciting and enriching and fulfilling work. It doesn't feel like a job. I get to hang around all day and make television. Just listen to that.
Now the question is, are you ready to start your journey today?
Someone once said that without music, life would be a mistake. And that's how we feel here on Face the Music. Hi, I'm Summer Castle-Keever, and I'd love for you to join me each month on our new program, Face the Music, which airs on C19 TV and C19.TV. Each month we'll highlight the talents, personalities, and stories behind some of the area's most gifted singers, songwriters, and musicians. It's going to be a lot of fun, so join me each month for a new edition of Face the Music right here on C19.
Think about everything that you save. You save gas, you save money, you save time. But have you ever thought about saving life? That's right, life. In just 1 hour, you could save up to 3 lives, giving 3 people more time with the ones they love. And isn't that the best thing to save? The need for blood is as universal as it is constant. Save life, give blood.
Arsenic, cadmium, fluorine, formaldehyde, rubidium, lithium.
Do yourself a favor and don't image search for exploding e-cigarettes.
What you don't know about e-cigarettes can hurt you.
Are you ready to take all this in?